All right, you ready?
You're closer to the camera than me.
Am I better? Better now?
Do I have enough buttons?
Or maybe I should unbutton another one.
There's some blood on your shirt.
Do I? How the hell did I get blood on my shirt?
Damn obliques.
I'm cutting up.
Let's do it.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Billy Collins, and this is Matt Dodge, my co. Big favor, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Can I get that out? Get that out. Subscribe.
That's a big one.
Subscribe.
And I'm going to be bold. We're going to set a goal for the channel. We're counting down to 500 subscribers.
500 subscribers, and we need you to hit that button.
And tell 499 of your friends.
Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that notification bell. Guys, here we go. All right, guys, so on this episode, I felt it would be necessary to talk about risk. And the reason being is I'm going to get back into keynote speaking. And I think risk is one of those topics I want to discuss. And I'm writing the whole show now. And on top of that, I don't think we'd be doing you any justice if we didn't discuss the reasons for taking risk in life.
Yep.
Also, if you want to better yourself, sometimes you do have to take a risk.
Not sometimes.
All the time.
Yeah, it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, so that's why I wanted to bring up the topic. I thought it was a pretty in-depth topic. I mean, we just had like what, a 30-minute conversation
I know.
that we should have been filming.
We were moving dirt.
Yeah, so that's kind of the reason for this.
Yeah.
And there's a few types of risk. Like, you know, there's the risk from being young to being an adult. So
So what is the definition of risk?
you tell me.
I mean, what would you say?
Well, so my definition is the fear of the unknown.
Right, but that's more. So risk, it implies there's some kind of danger. Something could happen that you don't want to happen.
Yeah.
Which is pretty broad, but the risk of getting in front of a crowd, why that's a fear is I don't want to look stupid, right? Or they're going to imposter syndrome. The risk of opening a business, it could fail. You know, there are a lot of risks, and you know, as you get older, have you noticed that things you thought were risky ended up not being as risky, or the reward would have, and that's right. Like, we can't talk about risk without talking also about
rewards. Right. Yeah. And you brought up a good conversation. So when I was a kid, I wouldn't say I was a daredevil, but I wasn't afraid to do stupid shit.
Good poor judgment.
Very bad poor judgment. 100%.
Give an example.
So me and a couple of friends would just drive up. We live on the coast, and we have these piers, and I was so used to jumping off the piers with surfboards because we surfed a lot. Matt, you surf, so you've done it too.
Dude, I'm rad, man. I'm radical.
Cutting up, slaying it, backsides. But also, we would jump off the piers to get past the breakers, and especially during hurricane swell, it's easier to get out.
You're cool. We get it. You're a cool
So
guy.
we got the idea, it's like, well, why don't we just jump at night and just try to go to different places at night and see if we could do it. So we have, on the coast, we have a bunch of piers. So we would drive from, you know, Jacksonville.
Not as many now.
Not now, because storms. But Jacksonville, North Carolina, on up to Ocracoke, past to Cape Hatteras, up to Duck. If we saw a pier, we would go and jump in, you know, see if we could jump off it. Didn't care if it was high tide, low tide, or whatever the case may be. But the fear was, if it was low tide, and if you're jumping off a 30-foot pier into a 5-foot depth of water, you're going to break an ankle, which a friend of mine did break his ankle.
Or during a hurricane, there's the current. So if you better know which way the water's going.
Exactly.
I've seen guys jump up and then immediately go right into the pilings. And
then, you know, I would jet skiing, and we would go four-wheeling or bungee jumping. I would do all these crazy things.
So you're a daredevil, which also could be called a risk taker.
Yeah.
Like an adrenaline junkie.
Right, because I just, if I thought of it, I wanted to do it, I would just do it.
Now, why did you do it? There has to be some reward for it. If it's all risk and there's no payoff, there's no point, right? I'm not just going to go walk into oncoming traffic. There's no, like, even if I survive, what's the point? I could So what was the payoff for you?
So like some of the cases, we had girls that were there.
I was going to get to the crux of it. Trying to look cool and girls comment, because I know we know you're watching. How cool is it when a guy jumps off of?
Is it really cool, or is it just like, do you look at him and say it's stupid?
Do you think, like, man, because talk about a long-term relationship material guy.
He's going to last a very long time.
Yeah, but it's to impress girls.
It was.
Impress your friends.
Yeah, to get notoriety, I guess, from people, or get the attention of people.
That was big in my childhood with Jackass, which was first CKY. That became, before YouTube and all this stuff, they just see who could do the crazy stuff. Now their reward is the crazier things they took, the more risk they took, the better clip they got. The more people watched it in the theaters. It's a dangerous way to live, though, because you got to keep one-upping. It's
a very short life, I guess.
Yeah. But so you had that gene early on, which I had it a little bit, but not quite as much as you.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like one of those dumb things. I didn't think I would ever get hurt.
Right.
Like, I just did them. I mean,
that's kind of what makes it fun, is that risk, the chance of getting hurt, you know.
Yeah, and it was kind of like when you do something like that and you jump off a pier and your stomach just goes up. It's kind of euphoric almost.
For sure.
In a way. Looking back 25 years later, no way in hell I'm jumping off a pier.
Not now.
Not now.
Right.
So it just, my reward for the risk now would be.
So how have you replaced those? Like, so you still have that gene, but you maybe aren't as physically. You're not doing it. You know, you're not dropping it on a 10-foot half pipe or something.
I need that adrenaline, and I think I pacify that adrenaline with being on stage.
Yep.
Going out in front of people in a bar.
It's almost like doing this. Is it like chasing a high?
Right. So doing the YouTube channel, putting myself out there, because I think a part of risk is the exposure of yourself.
Right.
And
yeah, you're making I mean, you don't turn off the ability to make comments on these videos.
Yeah, I warned it, good or bad. Yeah. I want them all.
Yeah.
So I think with that being said, leave a comment down below.
Yeah. Tell us about the risk we shouldn't have taken in this video.
Yeah. Probably my shirt.
Do you think? So I think most kids have that. My son's turning 3, and so there's a difference between taking a calculated risk, like you knew you could hurt yourself jumping off a pier, where he just doesn't know the ramifications, you know.
And I think that's just longevity will teach that. Like, even when I was 22, 23 years old, doing crazy stuff like that, I didn't really think about the calculated risk. We just went to the end of the pier and jumped.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like we didn't think about it, we just jumped.
Yeah.
Where now, if I'm, doing something on YouTube like this channel, we write things out, we make sure everything's nice and neat and packaged where we started to. When I'm on stage, I make sure that all my things are lined up. So it's a risk for me to go on stage and perform in front of people, but it's also a calculated risk because things could fail.
Could, yes.
But if I take the calculations and if I position everything correctly and if I practice, put my hours in, that potential for failure diminishes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So when people say they're terrified of public speaking, that's probably because they've never sat and considered, what would I actually even talk about, right? We're not saying just get out and make a fool of yourself and see it's not as bad as you thought. Like, no, it's bad.
Yeah,
but
because
you can minimize that risk of failure, or you can't minimize whether or not people are going to like you or not, but you can be prepared. It's just like taking a test. Like, if you study for it, the risk of you failing is going to diminish.
Yeah, and I really think that at my age it's necessary for me to do the more calculations. I don't have, and we'll talk about this later, but I don't really have much to lose as I did maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But still, I have something to lose.
Yep.
And the fear of that is, it will get to you.
Yeah. So there is the fear, hey, I have something to lose. And then we also have this fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Right? There's a fear of not capitalizing on the internet and just these free tools that we can use like YouTube, or you're big on these different social media platforms. To you look at that like not using that's a bigger risk than actually using it. You'll be madder at yourself in the future for not doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think a lot of people are wired like that, but I think they could become wired like that. So if you're not a natural risk taker, which I'm pretty conservative in nature, I skateboarded as a kid and growing up on the coast just like you.
Yeah.
But when it came to like ollieing down 10 or 12 stairs, I had no desire.
I didn't either.
Like zero desire at all. The risk far outweighed the rewards. Maybe I landed. Yeah, you're going to have euphoria, but I've just seen people snap their legs and get back and do it again. So they do have kind of that gene.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough. As you age, you start to get more perspective, and
yeah,
at some point you have to take risk. Peter Drucker says all profit is derived from risk.
Yeah.
We're all looking for a guarantee. That's why you hear politicians all the time saying, free this, free that, free this. We all want a free lunch. There is no such thing as a free lunch.
I think, and when it comes to the necessity of risk, is for that to be profitable, whether it be by money, whether it be by freedom, freeing up your time, leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
There's other things other than just money. I love money, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to do it. But just me personally, I feel like if I didn't take a risk in things, I would leave doubt in my head. And when I'm on that table or on that deathbed at the age of 98 years old, I'm like, I missed out on so much because I didn't take the risk.
Yeah. And I think kind of what you're getting at is we all have fears. Every one of us have fear. So maybe your fear, my fear, reason we put this out is the fear of obscurity, right? The fear of nobody knowing who we are, or, no one, and we talked about this in the celebrity episode, or that's a real fear that can drive you to do things that a lot of people would look at as really scary.
Yeah.
It's like, look, it's actually a bigger fear for me not to do this. So we're all driven by, two main emotions, fear and greed, right? But fear is a much better motivator than greed. It's a much stronger motivator.
Yeah.
If you're scared of something, that's why if you look in marketing and advertising, they're hitting on those two things, right? Buy gold because the dollar's going to implode, right? You're fearful. Now, typically you don't want to make any kind of decisions driven by, at least not financial, right? Just the same reason you don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry. You're not going to make good decisions, but you're not free of fear. We have different fears. I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's well put, because we talked about it a little bit. We're at different stages in our life. As a 23-year-old, I had nothing to lose.
And I'm 25.
You're 25, so
give or take.
But where you are now in your financial family life is that you have a 2-year-old, you're married,
I have a mortgage, you have
obligations that you have to do. So it would be kind of odd for me to see you take certain risk, knowing that you have all those variables that you have to take care of. Not saying that you don't take risks, but I'm just saying it's like, in my perspective now, where I am, I'm divorced.
You don't have a marriage you can ruin.
I can't ruin the marriage.
You don't have kids in daycare that you have to pay for.
Yeah, they're all pretty much on their own, doing their own thing. I can afford right now, because I'm still young enough, and we're both very...
Which, guys, what do you think about this?
Look at that. No beard. I look like a little baby.
Good Lord, man.
It's coming back. I got ridiculed.
He thought his chin was big. You thought his chin was bigger than that, didn't you?
It's small. It's like
But I get what you're saying. You don't have as many obligations in life.
Yeah, and at my age where I'm still physically fit, still able to do things, I still have another 50 years where I can make a dent in the universe. And I think at the end of the day, we say it all the time. We want to make a dent in the universe. When I go to heaven, if I look down, if one person is at my funeral, I would be pissed.
I don't think when we're in heaven, we're not going to be caring what's going on in the world. But
that's true. That's true.
But yeah, that's actually a good exercise is to write your eulogy. Right? If you died, what would somebody say about you?
Yeah.
You know, and the fear of obscurity is basically, we don't really miss him because we never really knew he was there in the first place. You know.
Yeah, and you touched on that.
That can be. So there is selfish reasons for not wanting obscurity, but also it's a busy world. It's a noisy world. We're all trying to, like you said, make that dent in the universe, lay our claim. I mean, I think as men, we all have, I can't speak for women, but as men, we all have a little bit of Alexander the Great DNA, where we want to conquer, where we want to push into other lands and conquest, all of that stuff. Now in a modern world, how do we do that? Well, you can push into the marketplace, you can start a business, you can acquire businesses, you can do that. It's that same like guttural Alexander the Great DNA that's driving a lot of that.
Yeah, and I think, and we didn't discuss this, but you hit on a little subject there, the different risks between men and women. I can't speak for women, because I don't know what risks they take, but...
Well, sure you do. We all, it depends on what their goals are, but go ahead,
But, you know, I think that, and I forgot the moment where I was going with this, but...
You hate women, is what you said.
I don't hate women, I actually love women. I have two girls that I adore deeply.
Oh my God, that's like saying, hey, I have a black friend, so it's cool. I'm going to say something really messed up, but it's cool.
It's cool, yeah, but... what I was going to say is that, you know, I think with our risk-taking abilities to further and make the dent in the universe that we were talking about, I wanted to ask you, is it like more ego, or is it more...
There's ego involved.
Or is it more like a self-gratification, knowing that you did something and made a difference?
Look, who are we kidding? We're all walking around with a sign that says, "What's in it for me?" on our chest, right? We all do that. Now, I have a wife and I have a child, so maybe there's now more gravity to the things that I do. But ultimately, if I didn't have that drive ahead of time, having a wife and having a child is not going to suddenly make you, you know, transform and take all these risks. And it's you know, something came to my head. There's a lot of things that are perceived really, really risky, right? For someone who's terrified of public speaking, that is a very real fear, makes their stomach hurt. What is it? As the joke goes, the number one fear in America, at least, is public speaking.
Yeah. Number
2 is death, which means at a funeral, most people would feel more comfortable in the casket than they would delivering the eulogy. And that's, I always got a chuckle out of that, but it's true. But if you want to accomplish great things, if you want the notoriety, if you want to have the expert status positioning, if you want to break through the noise, you have to do that, right? So that's a good maybe lesson for you guys, or exercise, is look at what other people find really scary and risky. Do that, right? Because that will automatically elevate you in their eyes, right? Because they're going to think, what? You know, why do we watch anything? Why do we watch Mariah Carey sing? I always use her as an example. It's because we think, I could never do that. That is so, her talent is so out of this world, so different from what my experience is. That's why she is able to demand the premium she does for that voice, right? In a similar way, getting up and speaking in front of a crowd, first of all, a lot of times you're elevated in front of the crowd. You know, your positioning's really, really well, right? I mean, so
that's true. Yeah.
There's a risk in obscurity, and to alleviate that, do things that would help you break through that. And there's really simple things, right? I wanted to write a book. I've read a lot of books. I don't know many published authors. I'm like, I'll do that, right? That's a good differentiator between, if it comes down to me or you, who's the expert? Well, here's my published book. Billy doesn't have one.
Yeah, I don't have a book. Actually, there's your book on the shelf up there.
So it's something you can actually flip a switch where you start seeking that stuff out. And the thing about you jumping off the pier, it's a hell of a lot scarier the first time you do it
than the second or
10th
third.
time,
Yeah,
right. If you jumped the first time and broke both your legs, you'd have never done it again, even though that was a possibility. But each time you did it, the more confidence you have. Confidence breeds confidence. And what seems really risky to people, eventually it's not, right? You start to realize it's not as scary. What's the acronym for fear? False evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
Right? So weigh what you do by, does it scare the hell out of a lot of people? Like, there's a good, we have kind of internal compasses, right? You fight or flight. You know, if someone's about to rob you, you shouldn't be like, oh, it's cool, statistically he's not going to rob me. You're like, that's you're wired that way. But a good way to gauge if what you're doing is what you should be doing is, does it equally excite the hell out of you and scare the hell out of you? That's a good way to gauge, right?
Yeah, that's
because if it only scares the hell out of you, there's a good chance there's no reward for that. You're like, you're not jumping off a pier on the concrete. That should only scare you. And if it only excites you, you're probably naive, right? You haven't counted the cost. You haven't weighed the risk. So if it scares you and excites you at the same time, go for it.
And that's true. When I step on stage to do either a speech or a lecture, or if I'm doing a magic show, there's a fear when I stand behind the curtain. I have my little routine that I do, that I walk through my head, go through the show or whatever. But when you get out there, it's just so exciting to feel that energy. Once you get those butterflies flying and your stomach flying in unison.
And usually it's almost like afterwards, right? Whenever I do a speech or I always say, yes, I'll do it. And then as it gets closer, maybe you're like this too. Right before you go on, they're starting to read like, Billy's done this, and maybe you've seen him here, and you're like, why the hell am I doing this? Why did I, like literally, that's how I'm like, this is so stupid. Why am I putting myself through this? But when it's done and people come up and say, man, that was deep, or I've yet to have someone come up and say, you know, you didn't do really well, or that wasn't a good point, or, you know, more people are going to give you the benefit of the doubt as long as you're being authentic. But I have that.
I do too, and not to really get off subject, but I had that moment last year. 2 years ago. I was working, I do walk around magic at a restaurant, and I had...
You're that guy.
Oh, that guy, that's a...
Oh, you want to see a trick?
Hey,
sure. Take my nose.
You want to see a balloon animal?
Yes. Make me a bicycle, funny man.
But I was doing the walk around, and I did not want to go because it's outside. It was August, and you know,
this was last week, right?
Yeah, that too.
No, didn't you was something similar last week?
Yeah. I was doing. That's the start of my season this year, but you know how August is here. It's the hottest month out of the year. It's miserable.
You sweat when you're taking a shower.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
It's bad. I was like, I don't want to do this. I started because I was obligated, and they hired me to do it. Went to the cabana where this young girl and her dad was sitting. And I did a simple sponge ball routine and a couple other things for her. And she started laughing and having a good time, and I was like, it made me feel good that she was laughing. They go eat. The dad immediately runs outside, back out, and he gives me a hug. And he was like, she just got off remission. She just started growing her hair back.
Wow. And
she was at St. Jude's, and she's like, she hasn't laughed like that or smiled like that in months.
Wow.
And that, at that point, one, you feel like an ass because you didn't want to be there, but two, you're like, that is the purpose.
Yeah.
That is the reward for the risk of me doing stuff.
Yeah.
That was about, I didn't care if I got paid at all. because that was enough for me to make me feel like I made a difference. And I think sometimes we tend to
a lot of times we have imposter syndrome. Like,
right. Yeah.
What do I have to offer that, you weren't thinking, I have got to do this because there's some little girl that just got off of
right.
mission,
That was
and
just
I'm going to be the first one to make her laugh.
It just happened. And it
happens. And more times than not, guys, especially as that starts to happen more and more, you start to notice a trend. And you realize that it's a bigger risk for me not to do that because there could be some little girl in there doing that. I know it sounds so. It wasn't like you had that pre-built, because if you built that up in your head and put that pressure on you ahead of time, that would have made you. You wouldn't have been able. You'd have been fumbling the balls. You're like, God, that's so much responsibility to make a girl laugh that just got off of cancer. But when you just focus on your God-given kind of superpower, and then that happens, you realize I have a responsibility to do this now.
Yeah, and it was one of those moments that I will always think about in the back of my mind. That what if that could happen again? Yeah, and it happened successfully then, so I have the ability. Yeah, so I can make it happen, and it was such a great feeling, and just that notion of that I started the ping for the dent in the universe that I
made a dent in her universe.
Yeah, and I say that without bragging. I say that because I think we all have capabilities. I think we talked about on the last one, what's your superpowers. Mm-hmm. We all have the capabilities of changing, and I don't think sometimes we know that people are watching us. We get in our own bubble, and I know it's far off the risk topic, but we get in our own bubble and we forget that people are actually looking, and you could change someone's life without you even knowing.
Yeah.
So, it's tied into risk. If I wouldn't have taken a risk to go out there and do magic for them, then I would have never done it.
But it was almost not even a risk. At that point, you've done it a million times. Yeah. Thank God you didn't succumb to the laziness. Yeah, because if we boil it down, it's just, I'm just being lazy. I'd rather just go home and,
lay on the
sit on the couch, watch a show. We get into these routines. And look, guys, there are people out every second of the day that are conquering. Right? They're not waiting on you. They are pushing through. So you almost have to sprint to be standing still in today's world.
Yeah.
I had a football coach that said, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. Right? There's no staying still. Right? There's almost like life has inflation. So if we're not advancing, if we're not putting stuff out, if we're not saying yes more than saying no, the life's inflation rate, if you will, are going to make us less valuable than if we just stayed there, right? Because we think, we can just put our life on hold. It's not how it works.
Yeah, and I when it comes to risk like that, it allows you to move forward, allows you to, think outside the box.
Yeah.
Do more, better yourself, create opportunities for you to succeed.
Yeah.
Whether it be whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so now we're not just saying take risk, we're saying don't focus just on the risk side of it. There's also the reward side of it too.
Yeah, exactly. That because like with the little girl, that reward can takes me forever. It will just stay with me forever.
Yeah.
Just like, you getting drafted in the NFL, that hours and hours and hours you kicking a ball. The rewards, you risking, whether you know it or not, risking all your private time, your social time.
You gave up a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a risk taking, but that reward of getting drafted and playing at the highest level that you can play in something.
Yep.
And being one of 32.
Yeah.
How many quarterbacks are on the team? There's like 3 to 4 quarterbacks.
Yep.
But as a kicker, one of 32, which is incredible. So when Matt says the reward is worth it, then he's 100%. It's totally worth it.
I think there's too many times we can have a tendency to say, look, the juice ain't worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Right? The juice isn't worth the squeeze. But, and that is true for some things. So I'll flip it a little bit and say there are a lot of things that we do every day that we see as not risky that actually are a lot riskier than we'd thought, right? marriage is a prime example. There's a lot of marriage rates are at all-time lows right now, and since they've started, keeping track of the statistics for 100 years, because there's a lot of men waking up. They've seen enough stories of this divorce took all his stuff, he can't see his kids. This divorce took all his stuff, can't see his kids. So people are starting to see the risk that marriage is, and it really is a risk, right? More so than just, well, I'm just with someone.
But anyway, so did we move some dirt today?
We moved some dirt.
And I think in closing, guys, no matter what it is that you want to do, whatever dreams you have, whatever ambitions you want to accomplish, you got to take a risk and at least try it. I think I've said this many times, the dirtiest words to me are what if, because you never want to leave a doubt. If you want to try something, do it. I've done it. I failed at it. I've succeeded. You failed. You succeeded. We're all going to do that. That's the whole purpose of risk.
Yeah, and failing doesn't make you a failure, right? Separate yourself from the action.
What's this saying? Failure doesn't make you a failure. Giving up makes you a failure. Is that what it is?
I'm sure someone said that, but yeah, there is.
Yeah, I just heard it the other day.
The guy that was swimming across the English Channel, got 3/4 of the way there, got tired, turned around and went back. So you're so and guys, read, right? Read about people that you want to emulate. Just read about their lives, right? We think they were born in some ivory tower. Every step they made was ordained. No, what did Mark Cuban say? You just got to be right the last time. But you can't ever have that last time if you don't have a first time, right? So if you're going to fail quickly, right? Fail often, fail forward, because only then that's on the other side of failure is that dent in the universe that you're looking for, right? I've learned as I've gotten older, my ducks are never going to be in a row. I grew up on a creek. Ducks don't swim in a row ever. I don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
And the only ducks that swim in a row are the little baby ducks, and they're always getting picked off every single time. Ducks don't swim in a row, right? So just do it, right? Take that risk. And look, if you bomb, who cares?
No one cares.
I had a guy tell me, don't worry about what other people think about you, because if you knew how little they actually thought about you, you'd probably be offended.
Yeah.
So that's just the reality. So just get out and do it, and I can promise you the rewards are so absolutely worth it. You got people coming up to you saying, man, love the direction of the channel, or love where you talked about that.
And I was afraid of that. I was afraid when I changed the format of the channel where I wanted to go, because I wanted to make a difference, and I didn't think where I was at was making a difference, and bringing you on and doing some of the great things that we're doing and going to accomplish in the future. People are seeing it, loving it, all that fun stuff. Speaking of birds, do you know why in a bird formation one line is longer than the other?
Yep.
Why is that?
I want to see if you know it.
There's more birds on that side.
Oh, that's true. Oh, my God. Ain't no bad joke like a dad joke.
Guys, take a risk on us. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video. If you don't like the video, who cares?
You have bad judgment.
You got bad judgment. Guys, love every single one of you. Matt, thank you, my bud.
Thank you, my bud.
We'll see you on the next video.
Just call me my bud.
My bud. My butt.